Donald Trump did something today that we have never seen him do before. Not before his political career, not during his presidential campaign, and not during his presidency. We have never seen President Trump do this before. Donald Trump actually answered a yes or no question. Now, he gets yes or no questions thrown at him all the time from reporters, and he often says words in response to those questions, but it's always a fast and furious barrage of words that usually does not include a yes or no and usually has nothing to do with the question. It's never one word. I mean, never. It's never yes or no. Until today. Donald Trump answered a yes or no question today with one word. That was it, just one word. And no big rush of words following that one word. Donald Trump, for once, answered a yes or no question with one word, and Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who's going to be with us, called that one word, quote, a gift from the heavens. That's what he told Ari Melber it was, a gift from the heavens. And that one word was no. Here is the question.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
And that, as future historians will record, is the very first word that President Trump has publicly spoken about Stormy Daniels. Until that moment, Donald Trump has done a shockingly good job for Donald Trump of doing exactly what his lawyer in the Stormy Daniels case wants him to do, which is the same thing that his lawyers in Robert Mueller's investigation want him to do, which is to say absolutely nothing. Say nothing all the time, nothing. That is the hardest thing in the world to get Donald Trump to do. But Donald Trump didn't check with his lawyers before following a common tradition set by previous presidents of stepping back into the press section on Air Force One today and taking a few questions from the traveling reporters. What could possibly go wrong? Reports indicate that President Trump has been feeling very, very confident lately. The more White House advisors he loses from firings or resignations, the more confident he seems to feel. He felt very confident today in West Virginia, where he went to speak about the Trump tax cuts and then forgot to speak about the Trump tax cuts because he so confidently, literally, threw away his prepared remarks.
You know, this was going to be my remarks. It would have taken about 2 minutes, but what the hell? That would have been a little boring. A little boring. Now I'm reading off the first paragraph. I said, this is boring.
Wow, that's confidence. Real presidential confidence. That was the same confidence that led him back to the press section of Air Force One today. There was no one on that plane who might have been able to successfully advise him against talking to reporters today. Standing behind him is Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley, who is so many steps down from the press secretary that he is not allowed to appear at the podium in the White House press briefing room, even when the press secretary has decided to hand it off that day to a deputy. Donald Trump has obviously made the judgment that nobody in America wants to listen to Hogan Gidley, and that no doubt includes Donald Trump. And so you can see in the background all the heavy homework and policy preparation that the president was doing before he stepped back to talk to the reporters. There on the TV screen, you can see how confident the president was today on Air Force One. He wasn't even bothering to watch Fox News to find out what he should say to the reporters. It was a golf day on Air Force One today. The only questions Donald Trump was confident to answer on Air Force One today were questions like, how was Tiger Woods doing at the Masters? Instead, he got the first few questions that Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who will join us in a moment, wants to ask the president under oath in a deposition.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
Did you ever set up a fund of money to pay for?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your response earlier about Scott Pruitt. Are you
About who?
about Pruitt?
So the president answers 3 quick questions about Stormy Daniels before he finds his way back to the safer ground of refusing to answer any more questions about Stormy Daniels. To question 1, he says, no, I didn't know Michael Cohen made a deal with Stormy Daniels. To question 2, why did Michael Cohen make the payment? The president says, I don't know. You'd have to ask Michael Cohen. To question 3, do you know where he got the money to make the payment? The president says, I don't know. Imagine how stunned Donald Trump was by that first Stormy Daniels question. So stunned that he gave a one-word answer, so flattened by it that he didn't overwhelm the question with a barrage of words and immediately change the subject. He was so stunned that it took him 3 whole questions to crawl back into position to take control of the interview. And the question he refuses to answer is, did you ever set up a fund of money that he could draw from? Did Donald Trump ever set up a fund of money for silencing women like Stormy Daniels? The President of the United States refused to answer that question today. And unlike every other time the President has been asked about a woman who has made an allegation against him, the President was still very, very careful to not say a word about Stormy Daniels herself. Now, just think about how terrified Donald Trump has to be of Stormy Daniels to not dare contradict her publicly, to not dare say one negative word about her publicly, to not dare say anything about her publicly. Reporters on the next trip on Air Force One can keep doing whatever they were doing before the president came back to talk to them today, because he won't be coming back to talk to them again as long as Stormy Daniels is still in his life. Leading off our discussion now is Michael Avenatti, the attorney for Stormy Daniels, and joining the discussion is Joy Reid, an MSNBC national correspondent and the host of AM Joy Weekends on MSNBC. And Ron Klain is with us. He's the former chief of staff to Vice Presidents Joe Biden and Al Gore, and a former senior aide to President Obama. Michael, I want to go first of all to this breaking news tonight about the special prosecutor who's very interested in Michael Cohen's dealings for Donald Trump involving all sorts of activity, including possibly foreign businesses. How does your litigation interact, if it does at all, in terms of pressure on Michael Cohen with the special prosecutor's investigation?
Well, I think what we're seeing, Lawrence, over the last 2 weeks is a concentrated effort by the president and his surrogates, and Michael Cohen is playing along, to really put the focus as it relates to our case on Michael Cohen. He is being placed in the crosshairs. He is being placed in a position where he's going to be expected to take the fall. He's going to be the one that is going to be expected to say that President Trump knew nothing about this. He was off on his own. He was negotiating the agreement on his own. He paid it on his own. And if that's a violation of the New York bar rules, and if that means that he has to lose his license to practice law, well, then he's willing to take that hit on behalf of the president. I think that due to the report that you mentioned relating to the special prosecutor, the noose is tightening on that front as well. And let me just say this. There seems to be a lot of confidence by the president in Michael Cohen's ability to take this much heat and this much weight. And we're talking about a lot of heat potentially and a lot of weight.
You mean both weights. You mean the weight of the Stormy Daniels case, and you mean the simultaneous weight of the special prosecutor.
That's exactly what I mean. And let me just say this. That's a lot of weight and a lot of heat for any one person to take. And the level of confidence that they appear to have in Michael Cohen, in my view, is likely misplaced. Because in the event that he folds under that pressure, whether it's next week or next month or next year, and whether it's the pressure we bring to bear by way of the depositions and what we're doing in our case, or the pressure that the special prosecutor brings to bear, in the event that he folds and rolls over on Mr. Trump, President Trump, that's going to be a very, very bad day for the president, because there's no question that Michael Cohen knows where a lot of bodies are buried. He's been with this man for a long, long time. He's been entrusted with a lot of information, and The special prosecutor, for instance, will be able to get to communications potentially between President Trump and Michael Cohen, even though there was an attorney-client privilege relationship there, by way of what's called the crime fraud exception. And in the event that that happens, that's going to be a very, very bad day. But Michael Cohen today was not a stellar day for him by any stretch of the imagination. First, the president threw him under the bus on Air Force One by claiming that Michael Cohen just did this all on his own relating to Stormy Daniels, which, by the way, I don't believe for 1 minute that that's accurate. But even taking the president at face value, that's the first thing. And then we have this special prosecutor report relating to them starting to knock on doors of associates and asking questions about Michael Cohen. There's no question Michael Cohen's in the crosshairs.
Did the confidentiality agreement, in effect, evaporate today on Air Force One? One of the parties to the confidentiality agreement said on Air Force One today, I knew nothing about it.
Well, we think it did. I mean, we think this is basically game over as it relates to our claim. We've heard, Lawrence, for the better part of a month now, that this was a rock-solid, airtight agreement. You've got David Schwartz out there talking about what an excellent lawyer Michael Cohen is and how this was a model NDA. It's a lot of things, but there is no way in hell it's a model NDA. This thing is a piece of trash in reality, and everybody knows it, and any legal analyst that looks at it will tell you the same thing, who's not biased. But that's what we've been hearing. And now what we have is we have a principal party to the agreement who admits on camera that supposedly he didn't know anything about a principal term of the agreement. Well, that means he didn't know anything about the agreement, which means there is no agreement. So all of this chest pounding and these threats about how they were going to bury my client and they were going to seek $20 million and they were going to go on an extended vacation with the money and all of this other buffoonery that we've heard for the last few weeks, that all goes out the window. You can't enforce an agreement where one party admits that they basically didn't know anything about it. It's an absolute joke, and I also think it calls into question the veracity of the statements all along the way, and is going to provide a further hook, Lawrence, for us to be able to depose this president and Michael Cohen, and we're going to make that motion again. We're going to renew that motion on Monday, and we're going to see what the court has to say. And I will tell you this. In the event that we get a 2-hour deposition of Michael Cohen and a 2-hour deposition of this